Welcome to another exciting episode of Rogue Finances and Life, where we are life and financially sound. For today's episode, I am sitting here with my guest, Mr. Dwight Heck. Mr. Dwight Heck is the founder of Give a Heck Financial. He started his career while living paycheck to paycheck. Dwight is a father of 5. Dwight has helped educate people that life success is not just about having enough money, it's about learning what truly and want and taking ownership where you at. So without any further ado, here's Mr. Dwight Heck.
Hi, how are you doing today? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
I am great. Thank you for being available. I really appreciate this. I know for sure we're gonna help some of my audience.
Yes, I'm certain we will, because especially I've found over, it's been more than just the pandemic, but especially over the last 2 years, people are feeling more and more trapped mentally between their 6 inches between their ears, emotionally as well. And they're looking for hope. And they're looking for, the fact is, they need to rebuild their faith in humankind, that there is kindness out there. So good for you for having this show so that you can help uplift and, help people climb out of their doldrums in life.
Definitely. Yeah, that's my main. It started out as being just by finances, but as I had talked to other business owners, and especially people that have ministries and people of faith, they're like, well, you can incorporate ministry into it. So then I added the end life to open up and talk about more things about life. So I noticed in your biography, and as we were talking earlier, we were talking about the hamster wheel. So basically, what does living on a hamster wheel actually mean, and when it comes to one's daily life?
Well, it could mean, there's lots of, we could have an whole episode just on the hamster wheel of what happens with us right from our earliest recollections of our origins. We are taught patterns of behavior. It happens from our family, it happens from friends, it happens from school, and then we graduate into adulthood and we learn patterns from school, whether it's college or university, or we go right out into the workforce. And we literally, sadly, we stop mentally climbing. Our brain is a giant computer. It does not know the difference between the truth and a lie. It counts on us to feed it information. And we stop feeding ourselves information. General majority of the population of the world jumps on a hamster wheel, and it's called the hamster wheel of 9 to 5. That's one of many hamster wheels. So then they go to work, go home, get paid 5 days a week. They live for the weekends. They aren't necessarily always happy where their life's at. They're not climbing. They're not feeding their brain new positive information. They have associations of friends and family and television shows and books and music, just the things they do, even extracurricular activities that are all focused around negativity and tied. And again, I'm not against people that do it, I'm about to mention, but it's tied to alcohol and other addictive personalities. So they live a life on the hamster wheel. They get to the weekend, they spend the weekend drinking. Sunday hits, they're mopey, they're emotionally unsatisfied, and they get back on the hamster wheel even harder come Monday. And they go through that cycle, go to work, go home, get paid, living on that hamster wheel, never climbing emotionally or mentally because of their poor associations. And they're never taught that there is a way, there is escapism, there's a way to get away from it that's not involving alcohol or drugs. And I'm not saying people can't do stuff like that in moderation, recreational drugs or alcohol, but unfortunately people use it as a crutch. They use it as a shield to protect themselves from the outside world. And their brain literally starts to wither and die. It affects their emotional state. It affects how they treat their families. It affects how they treat themselves. Self-care goes downhill. They start eating nutritionally poor. They start gaining weight. They start having body aches and pains, and the list goes on. But that's the basics of what the hamster wheel of daily life has become for a majority of the people in the world, because they don't know how to escape it.
Exactly. I believe that, man. That is really good. And also, when it comes to people diving into different addictions, all it does, it covers it. It's like all they're doing is putting a little on the problems, but it's not like the problem disappears. It's just kind of covered up. And once they get sober again, here you go. It's the same problem is still looking you right on your face.
Well, the thing about addictions, and I mentioned to you about my own podcast. I have an episode this week that went live. That's the difference between being an alcoholic and a gray drinker. Well, and the reason I bring that up is I learned so much from this lady. I already knew quite a bit because I've had lots of alcoholics around me in my life. I know people that have died because of alcoholism, people that have died because of drunk driving, and the list goes on. They're helpless. Alcoholism is a disease. So it is not something that is just as simple as somebody drinking, once in a while. That's, if you daily drink, and it's become and affected your family, your life, your health. That's, to me, is alcoholism. That's you've developed a disease to that and that addiction. But then there's people that drink because society today has gotten so socially acceptable. Challenge you to watch a show, movie, TV show, don't matter, or go into an environment where somebody's not offering you a drink, or they show it as socially acceptable during the middle of the day on like a TV show or a movie again, or talk about it in books or whatever the case may be. Society has literally condoned the fact of people being addicted to something, even if it's just in a gray area and they're only drinking every other day. It's still an addiction. It's still controlling them. Now, there can be people that are social drinkers, and, like I get together with people once in a while and I'll have a drink. I'm not going to lie to your listeners or to myself and say I don't, but it doesn't control me. I've literally gone months without having a drink. My life still goes on. So it's not an addiction. It's not an anchor for me mentally or emotionally. I'm certainly not an alcoholic. But even people that are what they call gray drinkers, that are drinking every few days, or somebody sitting and waiting for the weekend to come up, and they hustle and grind from Monday to Friday, and then the first thing they do when they get home Friday, they drink until Sunday night, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
because they're trying to, like you said, put a lid on it, put a Band-Aid on their life, or mask the pain and anguish they're going through because they don't like their job, they maybe don't like their family life. They don't like themselves. They don't like what they look in the mirror. So society says it's okay. Well, then it must be okay. I might as well pour myself a drink. Right. So
yeah, exactly.
Right? It's not a social, happy setting. It's a Band-Aid situation or a lid, like you said.
Yeah. So now I also noticed in your biography that you kind of recommend for people to tell their kids, exactly where they at, with their finances. So what would you say people should open and be honest with their kids about where they are with their finances and not hide it from the like the prior generations?
Yeah, well, it's back to what we talked about, the pattern behaviors that we have in life. Don't talk about money. You hear that from the older generations, or the same sort of sayings like children are better to be seen, not heard, and all those little things that are taught and programmed and patterned into us. But kids need to understand. So if you just get angry at a child, or even if they're older, they're youth, you get angry at them because, and this doesn't just happen with children, this happens with adult couples, significant others, but it's prevalent with children. You tell them, you shut them down when they say that they need something, right? First and foremost, I taught my kids, and I still coach people on how to do this for their kids. I teach their kids, you have to start teaching them young the difference between a need and a want. And somebody can learn that no matter the age, but it's obviously easier to coach a young child the difference between a need and a want. And having a very respectful conversation with them, age appropriate. Don't be puking all over them that you can't make the mortgage payment. They don't need to hear that, right? What they need to understand is, mom and dad or single dad like I was, and my kids are all grown up now, this is where we are financially. What you're asking me for is a want. It doesn't fit with inside of our budget because, dad has to budget. This is what we pay for food. This is what our mortgage is. This is a car payment. This is what gas costs. This is what your dance costs, your soccer, your football, all the extracurricular activities. And then, dad also would like to save for our vacation, so I don't have to use a credit card to go on it. So if I give you, every time you ask Sally or Johnny your wants, we'd be short on bills some months, maybe another month we wouldn't, but then we wouldn't be able to be saving for our vacation so that we can have a real nice time this summer and go to the beach or the cabin or, go camping and spend some time. And I literally started talking to them when they were very young. They didn't grasp it until they're adults, what budgeting is, but they understood the fact that, the bills are going to cost dad $1 and what you want is going to make it $1.20 and I don't have it. And then it's not going to be good. Or the bills cost, 80 cents and that 20 cents I'm going to use to, other things that are a priority for the family unit. So we really can't do it. Now, kid, if what you're telling me is a definite need, you blew a hole in your runners. You had this go on or that go on, or you need this for Little League, or you need this for gymnastics or dance or whatever. It's a requirement. That is a need. Now that's up to me to figure it out. I'm not going to sit and tell them like all the details of what I'm talking to you about, but it's things that you program them through by you as an adult having a controlled budget and understand your inflows and outflows. And then along the way of you understanding your numbers, teaching your kids need and a want. Oh, you need those runners? I agree, you do need those runners. I'm not going to say to them, well, I'm spending, I only got $1 and I need $1.20 already this month. I can't get you your runners. I'm going to do whatever I can to get my finances under control, my inflows and outflows, so that I can buy them those runners. Yes, sometimes in my life, I'd have to use a credit card to do it, and then adjust my budget accordingly to make sure I could pay it off as soon as possible, right? But unfortunately, parents aren't taught. I wasn't taught the difference between a need and a want. That was something I learned in my early adult years before I ever got into the finance industry, when I had my computer consulting firm. And I literally, one day it was just like a giant wake-up call. Need and a want. I never thought about it that way, right? And, I'm not going to be that parent that's going to snap at my kids because they asked for something because I didn't have my financial house in order. And
Exactly.
does that mean your financial house is always in order? That's unrealistic. No, it's not. But if you control your financial house, you understand your numbers and you budget, budgeting is not an evil word. It's a word that empowers. People need to take budget and put an equal sign and put empowering beside it. Budget, I am empowered. Now I understand my numbers. I understand that if I have to spend more than I can afford this month, I'll be okay the next month because I've forecasted my budget. I understand that I have to use a credit card, line of credit, overdraft. I can pay it off the next month, or it may take me 3 months. But peace of mind is knowing. The unknowing is what crushes us. And then when our kids ask us for stuff, we snap at them, right? Or we get upset at them. And I see this time and time again in my financial practice in my 20 years in now, how many parents I've coached on the need and want, and understanding like, hey, if we get our numbers in order, you don't have to share everything. What you do share with the kids is you start them at an age where it's appropriate. This is a need, this is a want, right? And then you can, when they get older, I actually used to recommend this to parents with older teenagers. Have your budget, put it in the glass cupboard, or put it in the cupboard that gets used the most, which is usually your glasses, isn't it? Right? You open it up and have the budget there. If they come and ask you for something, just say, did you check the budget? It's on the cupboard. Now, that takes a lot of courage to be that vulnerable with your children. I did used to show my budgets to stuff to my kids, depending on, some of them I didn't have to, they just got it. But out of 5 kids, I had kids that would be a little bit angst and they need this, need that. Well, go open up the cupboard. What does it show for this month? Does it show anything in the leftover? Yes, you've told me what you need, and I agree that's a need. So go check the cupboard. Oh, it says this and that. Oh, okay. Well, dad's going to have to be creative in order to get you what you need. And then that's my responsibility to figure that out, because it is a need. Oh, it's a want. And if they still, and I'd say to them, well, that's a want. You really don't need that. And they get a little angst. Go look at the budget. Right. So if it's a want and it's not, you want it because your friend has it, or somebody else has a fancier pair of shoes or shirt than you, that's not a need. That's a want. And we can't justify that. Or I'll remind him, remember that what we did this past summer, how fun it was? Oh yeah, Dad, we got to do this, this, and that. Guess what? I had to be very methodical about it, and very, my numbers had to be tight. So we could go whitewater rafting as a family. So we could go camping to the mountains for 3-4 days, right? You want to do that again, don't you? Well, of course I do. Well, this is how I do it, right? So as I got older, I'd share with them more and more information, but I'd also put a story behind it. I'd tie a memory or something to it so that it's more palatable, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah. I for what I have talked to different people within my workplaces, or as I walk around and go like that, I have noticed that a lot of people do have the needs and wants kind of like cross or reverse. Like a lot of time people think that their wants are their needs, but that's not true.
They don't understand the difference, what a need and a want is.
Exactly.
Like, I do workshop series, and I've done them in front of hundreds of people, small groups of people. I've done it across the kitchen table. I've done it over Zoom to people in other countries, right? And one of my workshops is basically understanding your inflows and outflows of cash and how to get out of debt. I teach people simple processes of how to get out of debt very effectively.
Definitely.
And I teach them the fact that, here's the need and the want. Part of the workshop talks about the fact I integrated it into that because I think it is that important. And they'll, it's not because people are stupid. They're just ignorant. They don't understand. So it's my responsibility to educate them. And I use examples. I'll say to them, well, if your fridge breaks down and needs a repair, is that a need or a want? Well, most people are going to say, well, that's a need. I got to have my fridge repaired, or if it's acting up, I got to get it repaired before I'm going to lose everything and it's spoiled, right? Okay, that's fantastic. You do need that. So you have a car and you want to put a fan, you got a deck in there and you like listening to music and it's okay, but you want something better. And you want to go out and buy yourself a new head unit, new speakers, put in a bunch of stuff in your car. Is that a need or a want? Your functional radio right now works. It's not a need. It's a want. If the radio breaks down, it's still, if you want to replace it, it's still a want, right?
Exactly.
Why is that? Because the vehicle still takes you and does its chore. It takes you from point A to point B and back again, right? So it's just a matter of thought process. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Client, Mr. and Mrs. Individual, groups of people I'm talking to. Now, if you really want to change that head unit, right? Figure out what you want, figure out the price, and then put that into your budget as a saving item. And if you're on a tight month, that entry doesn't get any savings, whether it's $10, $20, $5, it doesn't get an entry, right? And you understand that if push comes to shove, and now your fridge breaks down and you don't want to use credit card, you have options. You can use that car stereo account and pay for it cash and not have to pay interest and make somebody else rich, right?
Well, that makes
So
total sense.
it's
Yes,
just
sir.
it's just a different way of changing and helping people with their thought process. And I want your listeners and people viewing to understand it doesn't happen overnight, but you have to start with baby steps. You have to start somewhere, and that's being responsible and understanding you're sick and tired of being sick and tired and on the hamster wheel of life, and that you want to start climbing out of that rabbit hole and gain control of your own life. Because you get control of your own life, you're going to be happier, you're going to be healthier, you're going to not be doing so many things that maybe are possibly addictive and bad for you in regards to nutrition, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is. Your family is going to be happier. You'll have a bigger spring in your step. If you're a God-fearing person like myself, you'll have a closer connection to God, right? In my opinion.
Sure.
Or if the universe, if you're somebody that, doesn't believe in God, you're universe, spiritual, whatever, you'll have a close connection to the universe, whatever works for you, but you owe it to yourself, right?
Yes, sir. That's true. So now you also, I noticed that you said that you are willing to work with the, you only work with the willing. So what does it mean when you say that you only work with the willing?
Well, the biggest thing is, in the first few years of my business, I was like anybody. I was very transactional based, sit down with somebody, press hard 3 copies that help them with insurance, investing. I do some budgeting with them. I do some goal setting with them, like, not really superficial, but not deep either. And literally, if you don't help people grasp what's going on in their circumstances in their life, and you don't help them push forward, they fall back so easily. You literally have to, how do I put this? Best way to do it is state that phrase, that question again to me. State that question again to me.
Okay. What does it mean when you say you only work with the willing?
What working with the willing is somebody that is sick and tired of being sick and tired of being caught in the rat race of life, on the hamster wheel of life, that when I talk to them, they lean forward in their seat. They have great questions when I ask them questions, when I go through the goal setting process with them, when I sit and work on budgeting, they're saying, well, what about this? They become connected with me and what I'm doing, and they add to it. They'll respond or ask me things before I even think to ask about it, because they're the willing. When I help people in the first few years of my industry and they weren't the willing, they'd get some insurance, they get some investments, they do a superficial sort of stuff with budgeting, and months later, guess what? Might as well have thrown down your window and drove them down the highway and thrown it out, because they're not doing it anymore. They weren't the willing. They convinced themselves that they were willing to do whatever it was temporarily so that I'd help them, but they weren't willing to do that as a life journey, because controlling our finances, controlling our understanding of needs and wants, controlling our 6 inches between our ears, and always elevating ourselves with what we read, listen to, and watch is a life journey. And the more we connect to the life journey, the more willing we are. So when I go to, and I only want to work with the willing, I want to work with people that are at, even if they're at the starting blocks to go through that path of what I'm talking about, they are somebody that is going to be susceptible and acceptable to information, right? They're going to be willing to want to change their lives at their core, which will change everybody around them, whether they're single or they got a family, they're running a business with staff, it doesn't matter. They're the willing. Whenever I worked with the people that weren't really the willing, I seen their lives fall backwards. Maybe it was debt consolidation. I did a lot of work with them, helped them over 6, 9 months, a year, get out of debt. And they were happy to be out of debt. And a year later, 2 years later, I'd hear from them, guess what? Back in debt again. They weren't the willing, because the truly willing are constantly leveling up and climbing and doing the little baby steps to succeed at life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So basically what I get is that sometimes you have helped people, or in my case, I have helped somebody with finances and they kind of find themselves back into the hamster wheel, would you say?
Oh yeah, they'll climb back onto it. They just get caught back in that rut. They get back in debt. Maybe I've helped them free up money. This is one of the workshops I do, is about going through and literally figuring out where you're overspending. And we all do it at one point in our lives. We have that top of the line cable bill. We have the top of the line, cell phone bill and blah, blah, blah. And we don't need all that stuff. We're trying to impress everybody else. Oh yeah, I got 200 channels, and oh yeah, I got 50 gigabytes of data on my cell package and blah, blah, blah. When in reality, when you get challenged and you dial it down and you see that the fact that they don't need that much, you free up money. You free up money. Now they can pay off debt quicker. They can save for retirement. They can save for vacation. They can save for kids' education. The list goes on. And if they're willing and they go through that process with me, and they learn how to understand their inflows and outflows and where they're spending their money, and they start spending it wisely, they don't go back on the hamster wheel. They just don't. But I don't know what the time frame is going to be for you or I. All I know is that you need to be willing. You got to go through that uncomfortableness, that conversation with me where I ask a lot of questions. I shut up, I listen to you, then I ask more questions. And I'm compassionate, I'm kind, I'm empathetic, because I've been there. I've been that guy. I can relate to you. I've been that, whether you're a guy or a girl, it don't matter. I can relate to you, right?
Exactly.
Because I've been there. I'm the real deal, in the sense that I'm not touting my own horn. I'm just saying I'm the real deal in essence that I've been on the hamster wheel. I've been off it. I've been on it. I've been off it. I just got tired of it. And one day when a person reached out to me and said, you know what, your houseman's failing, and we think you should leave your current computer consulting industry, get out of your business, close it down, come into finance. And you'd be great. You're good with building rapport with people. You're good with you're a good relationship builder, and you could take those skills and apply it and help others. But first off, we're going to help you because you're a mess, right? And it wasn't necessarily that I was a mess, that I was about to lose everything. I was on that hamster wheel, brother. I was go to work, go home, get paid.
Yes, sir.
I was stressed about finances. And the reality was, when that all happened, I was a 6-figure earner, yet I was broke all the time because I didn't understand my inflows and outflows of money. I didn't really take it to heart, needs and wants, right? I knew it, but I didn't really take it to heart. There were so many things that become clear as I went along the journey. And listeners, people watching, the journey, you will fall, you'll trip, you'll skin your knees. But guess what? If you have a good coach, a good mentor, somebody to help you along the path and help you along with your unique path, your unique journey. There's commonalities that everybody goes through with it, with living life on purpose, not by accident. But bottom line, you're going to skin your knees once in a while. And you just make sure you have good people that are not transactional based, that are relationship based, that want to help you become the best version of yourself and stay there and continue to climb to ensure that you stay there.
Wow, that is, you surely dropped some nuggets. You surely dropped some wisdom bombs. I love it. I love it. I'm learning myself, and some of the stuff that you're talking about, I talk about with the people I sit down and try to show them different ways of managing the money and how to get out of debt. We use one method that's called debt stacking. I don't know, have you ever heard of it?
No, there's so many different terminologies.
Yeah.
There's a snowball effect. There's so many different terminologies in regards to debt consolidation. Some are more effective than others, but it actually isn't that hard.
Exactly.
Biggest thing though, you probably can agree though, is people will say to me, well, I can never get out of debt. I'm thinking of getting a hold of this debt consolidation company, and it screws up your credit rating. A lot of them charge you fees. Bottom line, if we can catch somebody soon enough, and I can look at their whole financial picture, and I can say, hey, we can shave off $10 here, $20 there. Oh, you put birthdays down in your budget. You're spending, how much do you normally spend on a birthdays? You have birthdays this month? Well, I have 3 birthdays. Okay, how much do you spend? Oh, we spend whatever. Well, that's a problem. You can't just spend whatever. How much you spending on this anniversary, this birthday, this and this? Oh, okay. Well, then you learn to control your thought process. You're going out to buy, you're only going to buy that. Right? That's it. You're not spending a dime above that. And, you have I used to go into, like I did a talk here a while ago and people were shocked. I used to go into a grocery store with a calculator, brother. A calculator as a 6-figure earner, because I had such a massive amount of debt that I compiled going through a divorce and raising my kids. I had debt, pay off lawyers, all this other garbage. I had some financial debts. I literally would go in knowing I only had in my budget $100. I'd have a calculator, and at $100, right? Oh, I still had a couple of items. Okay, I'd look at the cart and I reevaluate need and want. And people, you may be listening thinking, baloney. I did. Because guess what? Living life on purpose is so empowering. And it all starts, unfortunately, in our lives, the biggest thing that destroys us is money.
Exactly.
Right? But it's also the most empowering thing in your life. It can change worlds. It can separate worlds. It can grow worlds. It can destroy them, including your own life, your own world of your life. Right? So it's so imperative that we put in the effort and realize it's not going to be easy, but it's not going to be hard either. You just got to find somebody that's caring, compassionate, and a relationship builder to help you along that journey and teach you the stages to climb.
Exactly. That is, definitely. I agree with you 100%. It's important to know. It's important to separate and what I would say, prioritize your life and your needs and wants. Definitely. So any final thoughts before we
just know that you're not alone. One of the scariest things I hear from people is they and it's in my book. I talk about it on many different shows that I've been on my own podcast. You're not alone. You don't need to any longer live a life of quiet desperation. Right? I've been there. You don't have to be there. You don't have to be that person that I go up to my room, I close the door, and I'd lay in bed and I'd live in quiet desperation. How am I going to pay this bill the next day? Do I have to rob Peter to pay Paul? Do I have to not pay this bill for a few months knowing when the cutoff is going to be? Because I got to use the money to pay this person to keep them at bay. And then this person, when they start getting squeaky, then I'll start paying them. And, what am I going to do? And then I get up and I put on a mask, right? I put on a mask and I smile and I pretend. You know how much energy that takes? You know how much years of your life you're losing? Your health gets affected, and it drives you into addictive personalities potentially. I'm not saying for everybody, but it does. And even being sad all the time or angry all the time is an addictive personality. And you can break that, but it takes time. It takes energy. You're not alone. I've been there. I still struggle, right? I work on it. I have gratitude. I do gratefulness exercises. I do things where I reprogram my mind where I never have a bad day ever again. I only have bad moments, and I've been coaching and working on that for myself for the last 20 years, and I help other people do the same. You don't have to live in quiet desperation. You're never alone. What you need to do is put out your hand and ask for help. There is people that will help you. Honestly, there is. You might have to go through a few people, but there is people out there. And again, if you think anything is not, that I've talked about, a lot of this is this isn't a pitch for my book. All I'm saying is that if you want hope and you want to get out of that quiet desperation, read my book, How to Live Life on Purpose, Not by Accident. Give a Heck is the title of the book. I teach people, honestly, I spell it all out from my origin, from a little kid and being sickly and bullied all the way up to where I'm at today. And how budgeting, very little of it's about finance. It's about real life. And that I lived in quiet desperation. And then I met specific people that help uplift me, that changed me, that give me energy, that reconnected me with my God, and just the list goes on. It's never too late to give a heck, right? You don't need to live in quiet desperation one moment longer.
Amen to that. Now, there's a link or anything that people can go through so they can reach out to you?
Yeah, the one place, very easy, go to giveaheck.com. So giveaheck.com. It's Heck is my legal last name. Give a Heck is my legal brand, and just go to giveaheck.com. It's a portal design website. You'll see buttons there to reach out to me, contact me. You can have a call with me if you would like, and we can discuss and see if I can direct you whatsoever to give you some hope, because life is so full of hope, but sometimes it hides in the shadows.
Amen. Well, thank you. Thank you once again for being available. Like I said earlier, you dropped some really good wisdom bombs and some nuggets. But yeah, I really appreciate this. I know for sure that we will touch so many listeners and so many people in the audience. There's people out there that need the help. And so I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on. It's been my pleasure.
So yeah, thank you. So this is all the time we have for today. Dwight and I, we hope that when you watch this video, you learn something from it, you get something, and that you know that there is hope out there for you. So until next time, continue to be blessed, and we look forward to listen to you next time. So until next time, be blessed.